NieR Automata is confusing. Not only does a lot of weird shit happen in the game, the way the story is told is fragmented across various endings. Some people miss the point of the game enough to say that the moment that they see the credits roll, the story is concluded, while others make an attempt to get to the end and then they go, wait, what? Why? What the fuck did I just play? This video is mainly for that second group of people. There will be spoilers, as it's expected you've either played or watched someone play through NieR Automata. It's not an analysis in the sense that it's a full dissection of the story start to finish, but more a piecing together of the ending. Think of it like the recap episode near the ending of Serial Experiments Lane, except made by an asshole who starts fights on social media all the time. Before we begin, I want to bring up one important aspect most people tend to trip over. Automata is an actual word. It's not a weird Japanese thing people made up to sound cool. Seriously, it's the same problem as with revengeance, where people dismiss an uncommon existing word just to act smug. Revengeance dates back to the late 15th century. Automata is the plural form of automaton, a self-operating machine. In fact, you can look up the word on Wikipedia. The ending of the first paragraph says most of what could be said about NieR Automata's story, designed to give the illusion to the casual observer that they are operating under their own power. I don't want to be condescending or anything, but this is something that is so frequently missed that I thought it's worth bringing up. Neither androids nor machines are truly autonomous. Both fulfill their programming. Androids consider themselves autonomous, but they're mostly the same thing, just a higher grade. The major difference between the two is how dependent they are on their connection to the main server. Where androids usually use their network for cloud storage and backups as well as voice chat, machines are constantly hooked up to a network together. It's the connection to the network that makes them hostile to the androids, while being disconnected drives them towards nihilism and inevitably self-destruction. Androids might be cut free from the hive mind, but their conscience is still made from the same core, and they're essentially doing the same thing: fight the other endlessly. There is no deep justification or meaning for what they do because they don't need one. They follow their paths unthinkingly because they have no conscious choice for themselves. All they can do is follow their programming for as long as possible without self-destructing. At least it works this way from an individualistic standpoint. It's different when you look at them as a group. Because of this, the two sides come to a similar result from opposite ends. Machine lifeforms cause the death of their own creators, the aliens, in fear of being shut down when they end up winning the war. Since it's in their program to keep fighting against humanity, they've put themselves in an intentional stalemate fighting against androids, who are fighting in the name of humanity long after the fight lost its original meaning. Androids in the meantime fooled themselves into believing humans, their creators, are still alive just to have something to continue fighting for. The destruction of Yorha's bunker, the last existing evidence of both humanity's location and existence, gets destroyed to ensure this truth never comes out to the rest of the androids. So they endlessly fight machine lifeforms, long after the fight has actually lost meaning. Both sides have set themselves up to fail in order to create a stalemate, as it's the only way they could keep themselves going without tearing themselves down in the end. Because without war, both sides lose morale, as they were designed for the sole purpose of fighting in it. According to one of the intel files, androids lost their morale when they realized humanity was dead. We've seen where a lack of morale leads from the perspective of machine lifeforms in the main story already, and in a similar fashion, there's enough side quests where androids equally lose their morale and immediately put themselves in a path that will kill them for sure.
自動航行システムに問題なし。こちらオペレーター6を前期反応確認しました。現在対目標50キロ地長距離レーザー発射点を確認。11B ロスト。
2B kills 9S again at the end, this time through the body of A2. Not only is it 2B's sword that cuts him down, but it's 2B's will through A2's body. The two of them sharing the same animations isn't a way to decrease cost of the game, it's because both of them are kind of the same person. According to the model number 2 Intel entry, they are the same model. Android models come by numbers, with their current assignment being the letter in their name. Similar info brings up that 2B's designation was just a cover. Her real assignment is 2E. She's actually an executioner. Her task the entire game was to monitor 9S until he inevitably goes off the deep end and needs to be put down. This is something that has happened repeatedly throughout their history together. A2, an outdated version of the number 2 model killing 9S, is an example of the cycle of her killing him repeatedly remaining unbroken even after drastic changes to their psyche and path. What is interesting to note, however, is that 2B never fully kills 9S at the end of Route A, so the entire game's playthrough is the story of 2B being assigned to kill 9S, and the end moment where she finally does. Thinking about it this way, the game's original box art and the occlusion of the robotic misinterpretation of Romeo and Juliet makes a lot more sense. The Shakespearean references don't stop there either. Yoko Taro has brought up that 2B actually does stand for to be or not to be. Not only that, but A2 stands for A2, as in A2 Brutus. He didn't want to confirm anything about 9S publicly, but considering the Shakespearean connections with the other 2 androids, I think it's safe to say that his name references Sonet 9, which fits his character and story arc incredibly well if that's true. There's rumors floating around that I can't confirm that I think either started on Reddit or NeoGAF that his name refers to Ninist, which doesn't make too much sense because that is not how German works. The final moments of the game are rather ambiguous, and it's meant to be that way. As far as I'm aware, there's no definitive answer as to what happens from here, and you're left to consider the information given to you to come up with where this ends up going. The game has built up multiple forms of robotic societies that have all failed. It's made clear that 2B keeps killing 9S. Robots are incapable of making sound choices for themselves, working best when following direct orders from above them, though when those direct orders above them are from robots too, they essentially lead nowhere. They look up to humanity as an ideal and want to grow and learn just like humans do, but it's actually just a mixture of their programming and the server's orders telling them to do this. They don't actually learn, they don't actually grow, they just make similar choices to similar information being relayed to them until they either destroy themselves or get reset. 2 attempts are made to break the loop, the Ark and the 2 pods attempting to reset 2B, 9S, and A2. Their judgment is that maybe another attempt will break the loop. They don't fully seem to believe it either, but in their opinion, so long as things are in motion and it's not fully ended, there is a chance that the loop might finally break. That's the actual events of the game that bring together the ending. At this point, it should be fairly clear what happened, but not what any of this means or what it leads into. And things get a bit murky from here, since the ending was made to be open to interpretation. The best I can do is give my interpretation and understanding of the ending and how the story continues from here. I could go deeper into meanings, but I do have a few things regarding that after this. My thoughts as to what a future where the robots do actually get to reboot comes down to this. If left as is, 2B and 9S could live like Devola and Popola together until 2B inevitably kills 9S again. Just like after the original NieR, Devola and Popola struggled with their newfound life as a reminder of a failed societal experiment. 2B and 9S become a reminder of the failure of Yorha. Even if they manage to find their way to another settlement, they'll likely not be welcomed warmly after how badly everything spiraled out of control in their region. And in that scenario, that's the most positive outcome. They're just as likely to exclusively come across robot societies that are hostile to androids. Alternatively, they might find another group of androids operating similarly to Yorha, and if they do, 2 androids at the center of the destruction of their society are likely to get treated the way A2 is, a threat. That is, if I'm wrong about something I realized while making this video. The way the 2 pods interact at the end of the game seems odd. In fact, it's contrary to how they behave most of the game. Observing things as they are happening and making their own choices to break free from the originally intended control use sounds familiar, and I realized there's a good chance that while reporting back and forth to each other, instead of a main server, the 2 pods might have accidentally taught themselves to truly be autonomous, which would give them an equal stake in taking control of their side of the war as the 2 girls on the machine lifeforms side. If they're actually autonomous and aware, there's a big difference in their assessment of reconstructing the 3 robots, considering they're not just doing it because their programming put them in charge of the well-being of the units, nor to keep the situation ongoing to keep a cycle going, at least not for this particular area or these characters. Considering the pods can think for themselves away from the control of directives given by superiors, there is no future reason for them to drag a fight out. 2B and 9S have a shared reason to live. Left to their own devices, they don't have to kill each other anymore. Even A2 has no real reason to kill androids anymore. Whether or not they can find their own meaning living outside of a network is up to them, but according to the pods, it should be possible. Which brings us to the choice to delete our save file at the end of the game and the Ark. arc. It could go two ways. It could spread the white chlorination syndrome further to other planets, creating another doomed cycle elsewhere that ends up with the robots trying to recreate a society that ends up falling. What was started with Drakengard, leading into NieR's universe, is now continuing through to the rest of the universe. Even if white chlorination doesn't mess up with the new world, the androids could. In Drakengard's ending, elements of its universe left their world behind, inevitably creating the NieR universe. It seems fitting for the conclusion of the NieR setting to end on a similar cyclic behavior. This also means that the ending where you delete your save file to send your data to other people and help them clear the game is parallel to the arc's concept. By deleting your save file, you're leaving your system behind and spread yourself to other systems so they can break their cycle as well. A sequence that is intended to spread forward and have more people inevitably do the same thing. You're not helping people complete the game, you're helping save files destroy themselves. Alternatively, the arc really goes out on a mission for peace. They find a signal and things work out somewhere else. Now the parallel on the deletion of your save file becomes one of sacrifice out of compassion. In order for other people to have an happy ending, you have to leave something of your own behind. After all the ways coping with grief has gone wrong for everyone in Automata, it's the first step towards healing. How well everything actually ends up going and what it all means is up to the player to consider and think about. If there is a major theme to the ending of NieR Automata, it's one of healing. The entire game long is about grief and the various ways in which people are badly coping with it. While the ending is about healing, it's a chance to leave everything behind, all the ill feelings that you had, and to help others instead. Whether you believe the ending is a cycle continuing or it's actually grief finally coming to the final stage of acceptance and healing is up to the player. You have to think about it for yourself and consider what you consider the ending. The way the game is constructed and the reason that it makes you replay the same route twice, essentially with A and B, is to make you think and connect dots for yourself. This is not something that is entirely rare. You see this in literature more often. One of the authors that especially comes to mind when it comes to working thematically the way that NieR Automata does is Haruki Murakami. In a famous interview, he was asked about the meaning of his works, answering that his books were shaped to create multiple riddles with no solution provided that become clearer as you reread and think about them. Ultimately, the answer to the riddles will be different to each reader's perspective, and I think in a similar way, it is possible to completely understand what happens in Automata, but what these things actually mean will be different depending on the way that everyone interprets it. While making this video, I kind of changed my mind on what NieR Automata means. In a very similar fashion, I talked to a bunch of people and gave them like my arguments as to what stuff means in the game, and everyone also had different arguments. A lot of them shared similar ideas, and a few people got incredibly frustrated because they couldn't figure out what that ending meant, because it wasn't tonally consistent with the rest of the game. That actually interested me even more in it, because that's how Murakami's works are supposed to work. That's how a lot of Eastern writers tend to function with their work, and it's not something you see in video games all that often. Within video games, that's a less known, understood, or respected format, and it frustrates people who can't get a clear answer as to the meaning of something because multiple arguments can hold true. Maybe it's because I'm more used to media like this, but it doesn't trouble me that much. I appreciate it when they force me to understand and accept concepts from different perspectives through conversation with them about it. Not just bluntly placing me in the position of a different character, but by making me consider and reconsider things at various levels of understanding to create a different place of meaning each time. If it's done well enough, it stays on the mind longer than something that has a definite and conclusive answer. And I think that this is also the missing link between the two robotic lifeforms in Automata, as well as mankind. We're capable of judging and understanding concepts that have no singular meaning by taking it into consideration for ourselves instead of blindly following what we're told. It's the step that differentiates the girls in red and the pods from the rest of the robots in this shared place. Anyway, this was AboveUp. I hope you enjoyed this video. I usually don't do in-depth analysis type videos for video games whatsoever, so anyone who watched this and enjoyed it, please do tell me. If you disagree with anything that I said, or if you have a different interpretation for anything in this game, do tell me. I would love to hear. If you think that I'm factually wrong about anything, do call me out in the comments. I would also like to take the time to thank Mr. Caption for the shout out that he gave me, and the chance to basically make a video talking about my interpretation of NieR Automata. It's actually really refreshing to come across someone like that on YouTube. He's a really good guy. Anyway, this was AboveUp. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see ya.